Welcome to Spirit Portal, a podcast with me, Erika Anderson. I'm an evidential medium and a spiritual seeker, always on a quest to more deeply understand the magic and mystery of this universe. Join me in an exploration of the realms, both seen and unseen. I'll share my insights and be joined by inspiring guests with their own unique perspectives on living in this quantum, magical universe. Welcome back to Spirit Portal. It is Erika, your host, and I'm so glad to have you here. And thank you for my prolonged absence of over a week. It has been really busy this summer, but I'm recording today because I have just been thinking about some of the phases and places that I've been going through, and I feel like it might be something that you maybe too are going through, or that would be reflective for you and be helpful for you on your own spiritual and human experience journey. I was talking to my friend the other day. We were having dinner together, and she was talking about what the theme in her life is right now. And her theme was really perfect for her. And I really saw what she was talking about. And talking to her, it helped me really recognize a theme that's going on in my life. And a lot of it is like even reflecting further deeper into it. I love systems. I'm a projector. I'm an Aquarius. I love people. I love systems. I love understanding everything. I love making things better for everybody. And I've just been going through a really personal journey. And I've been having a lot of dreams and a lot of personal reflective experiences that then offer themselves to be another mini awakening. And that is what every hardship does for you, people, is that when you go through some sort of hardship, whether it's internal, self-contained, external, outwardly projected, or, external in a way that something that's happening to you, or internal in a way that you're making it up and you're telling yourself a story, it doesn't matter. There's an opportunity in that space to reflect. And I have had, I'd say, a mixture of internal stories and externally validated things going on. And what I've chosen to do with it is really reflect on why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And it's been so interesting. I have been kind of unfolding for myself in different ways that I could look at as like chapters. And my dreams have been really, really reflective of some of the internal spaces I've been going through. And again, I'm not doing this podcast episode to to bring my experience to the forefront, but maybe offer you a place of where you can find yourself and be reflective in it, because the world is changing so fast right now. And there's so many areas of the old paradigm that are coming to the surface for us to look at and to scrape away the things that are disgusting and gross, and to also stir the pot to like bring new things to the surface. And I kind of feel like when I talk to different people, mostly my friends or some patients or clients, that I'm seeing a lot of similar, familiar themes. And not necessarily that the story is the same, but that the things coming up to the surface and the innermost part, like the shadowy parts of ourselves that we like to ignore, are coming forward for us to either be validated as a truth, or be recognized as pain, or that maybe we've evolved into a place of healing and we can move through it with a new perspective. And so I kind of want to talk about, from the beginning, I want to talk about some insane dreams I've been having. And believe me, I know very well from my husband that it's not fun to listen to other people's dreams. But I'm going to pretend for this episode that you like to listen to my dreams, because my dreams might reflect yours. However, because of my husband, I will not be going into my dreams into great detail. But I did have a night the other night, and it was one of those nights that left me completely changed when I woke up. And background, I've been going through stories in my head about different things. I kind of am being a little bit cryptic about it because I don't want to like put my relationships out there on this podcast and like leave people feeling vulnerable. But I've been in a place of deep healing. We'll just say that. My dreams were strange. We all have strange dreams, but I woke up from these dreams knowing that they had initiated something inside of me. Because in my dreams, I spent what I would like to say hours, but I don't know what like dream time is. But I spent a lot of time with spirit, with my guides, with the source of love itself. And when I woke up, I just little by little kept asking, like, what happened? And things began to unfold in my awareness from these dreams. And okay, so the first dream I had, I don't know why I had this dream, but in this dream, I was sitting across from a woman who was a medium, just like me. It was almost like I was in a mediumship school on my dream side. I was like in this other space of my consciousness where I was a student of mediumship and I was sitting across from another mediumship student. And she said to me, I'm going to go into trance mediumship and I want you to communicate with me. And I said, okay. And I didn't know what exactly that was going to be for her, but I was sitting with her. We sat in the power and we meditated together. And I was supporting her with my energy as she went into a trance state. And the most amazing thing in this dream, it was very lifelike. It was like I was awake sitting with this stranger, and I could describe her to you perfectly. But I'm not going to because I know dreams are boring to listen to, according to my husband. But in this meditation that we were doing, I recognized when she was ready to blend completely with spirit to go into trance. I could feel her energy so deeply because I was supporting her with my own. And then when this person in spirit came forward, she opened up her energy, my friend across from me, and I saw the person in spirit literally move into my partner's energy field and be completely embodied by my partner. I was witness to it. My energy was supporting her energy. And then the person in spirit started talking to me from my partner. So again, I was in a mediumship school in my dream. My partner told me that she was going to go into trance and I was going to support her through that. That is exactly what happened. I was sitting there supporting my partner through this trance experience. And I saw the person in spirit come into my partner's energy and awareness and take over. And this person in spirit started communicating with me. She started communicating with me, and this person was a male, about my spiritual journey, was telling me that all sorts of personal things about my spiritual journey, my mediumship journey, where I was going, where I had come from, and what I was doing. It was insane because I was in a state of spirit, asleep, but I was fully cognizant of being awake in my asleepness. I was doing mediumship with a stranger, another human being, in this unconscious state, and I was completely supporting her with my energy so that she could do trance. And then this spirit being came forward and gave me messages about my own life. And I wasn't watching trance mediumship. I was experiencing what was happening. And then the person in spirit, through my partner, gave me an energy healing, literally worked through my energy system and started offering healing through my system. I think it's fascinating that this was the first dream of that night. It was a bridge for what was to come. And it reminded me truly that mediumship isn't about communication. It was a transformation, and it started happening in the most deep state of my sleep, but I was aware that it was happening. The second dream that happened was terrifying. I woke up in my dream coming out of this experience with this spirit who gave me a healing and this stranger in spirit who did trance into a state of utter desperation. I felt like I knew that I had just been on a run, like I was running. However, I could feel the snow on my feet, and then I looked down and I realized that my feet were bare. I opened my hands up in my dream and I looked at them and I had no phone, I had no keys. And I was like, oh my God, I'm out in the snow. I was on a run and now I'm in the snow and I have nothing. And I knew that I was supposed to be looking for my family. And I couldn't find them because every single house looked exactly the same. And I started getting really afraid. And I realized that I was completely alone on my own in this environment and I didn't know what I was going to do. Every house looked the same, but I needed to figure out where my family was. And so I was like, well, I'm going to have to go house by house and see what I could do. I spent that beginning part of my dream in a terrified state. And I got to a certain house, and some man there said he was going to help me. And it turns out that in my dream state, I became very quickly aware that he was a predator and was not going to help me. And I'm going to skip like this whole very traumatic part of this dream, but I will say that I got away from this predator and I got back onto this very snowy street. And I quickly realized that I was not going to be okay unless I could find someone to help me because this predator was following me. Again, this is all a dream. However, like one of the most awake dreams I've ever had this whole night was this crazy, crazy, crazy experience that the whole next day I felt like I was going to vomit the whole day. But I ran into this teenage girl who was coming out of one of these homes. She was cleaning one of these homes. And I was crying and screaming, and I ran up to her and I said, I need help. And I explained everything that was going on. And she said, I know who that man is. Get in the car. And she basically saved me. I got in her car and she's like, I'm going to take you to my house and you can call your family from there. And as I was in the car with her, I kept trying to call my family on her phone, but the buttons didn't work. Of course, you know how that goes in a dream. And so it was really frustrating not being able to communicate, not being able to step out of my experience and the fear I had in that experience to like get the help that I knew that would be right there if I could just call my family or call the police or anything, but I couldn't call anybody. And so then we got to her house and she lived with her grandmother. And her grandmother immediately let us in and locked the door. And her grandmother was very chill. And her grandmother was like watching a movie or like watching Netflix or something on her computer. And I said to her, can I please use your computer to email my family? Again, nothing was working. Every time I tried to get on some sort of like platform to be in contact with someone, it didn't work. And as I was trying to do that, I saw at the window that this predator was looking in the window. And it was unbelievably afraid. So I was with an innocent teenager. I was desperately afraid, and I had this elderly woman who was there as the grandmother, the safety of this home, and who had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, we started hearing this demonic kind of wail coming from outside the door, and we knew that that predator was trying to find me. And immediately I ran into the closet and I pulled the teenage girl with me. And I said, we have to hide in here. And the grandmother was alone in the room to do whatever was going to happen when this person that they knew was trying to get in, that was like very evil and scary and trying to hurt me and potentially them. And I woke up crying with this girl. I spent that morning absolutely devastated. I woke up feeling like I had failed. I felt like I was experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder from a dream. I couldn't function. I couldn't talk. It was absolutely horrific. And I started doing one of these techniques that I do when I have dreams like that, where I try to change the ending. And I went into like the mental space of the dream and I kept trying to change the ending and I couldn't change the ending. And it was so frustrating for me. And I talked to one of my friends about it. I actually talked to my husband about it. He literally listened to me talking about a dream. Can't say what his experience was listening, but he did listen, to his credit. But I didn't start feeling any better until I went for one of my spirit hikes. And when I went for one of my spirit hikes, I started opening up to those in spirit who are with me, who are journeying with me, who are protecting me, who love me. And I started talking to them about what I was feeling from this dream. And I started asking them, what is it that you're trying to show me? And I began walking and breathing just so I could get into a space of receiving this information. And I had to get into a quiet space without thinking in order to receive it, almost like a mediumship reading, except I was just channeling for myself. And what I received was mind blowing to me because what they told me is that I was sitting there afraid of that predator. I was terrified of that predator. I felt worried about that grandmother. I felt bad for that innocent teenager who was trying to help me. And I felt completely powerless as me, as the victim. And what Spirit showed me and told me was that every single character in that dream was me. I wasn't just the victim. I was the frightened grandmother. I was the lost woman. I was the innocent child. And I was the predator, the part of humanity that seeks domination and control. And not because I am that, because it exists in the collective psyche that I live in and the collective storytelling that I've been conditioned to experience. I recognize that my family represented like this connection and safety and partnership that could not rescue me. And so, because they couldn't rescue me, I became embodied with all of them. But I realized that I had been only identifying as the victim. But I wasn't only the victim. When they showed me that I was the grandmother, and I forgot to say, but in this dream, this teenage girl was Latina, and the grandmother was like indigenous Latina. And when I recognized that I was the grandmother too, I went into her storyline in my dream, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, and I recognized what me as the victim couldn't see. But when I was in the altered state of looking at this dream, that this grandmother, who I thought was going to be powerless against this evil demon, this grandmother called her essence in, she called her strength in, she called her power, her ancestors, her light, and she embodied it. And she, with her own light, completely forced out that demonic predator. She embodied wisdom and power and strength and knocked him completely back. And once I recognized that I could choose to be her in the dream instead of the victim, it empowered both her and me. It empowered her granddaughter, the girl who helped me. And it taught the predator that he had no control in this situation and he lost all his power. It was like my consciousness through that meditation and that walk with my guides completely shifted my story. And so when I came out of that walking meditation, I was like, oh my God, they showed me this story in my dream because I'm identifying in the wrong way in my human life. And this is a place for me to mirror myself and look at myself and to analyze myself and to see where I can show up not as a victim in my life, but to show up as not even the victor, but as the empowered, embodied healer of myself, of the situation, of my mind. And to me, that's the emotional climax of that dream. The grandmother wasn't panicking. She wasn't hiding. She didn't go into the closet when I grabbed her granddaughter. She didn't even pretend that darkness didn't exist. She simply stood up in that dream and stood in the doorway. And then I didn't know what happened until I went into my meditation. But she was there with her presence. She was there with her love. She was there with her power. And I woke up realizing I want to be her. When I woke up from that, and I say woke up from that meditation because sometimes it feels like that. It's like another state of consciousness. But when I came out of that meditation, I realized that that is a universal message for me. Fartin-lutely. No, absolutely. But also for us as a society. So then my third dream the other night was everything. It kind of encapsulated the first and the second dreams in some way, again, that I didn't quite understand until I spent time the next day recovering, literally. But in this dream, I was walking along a river, and it wasn't the most beautiful river, but there were beautiful places of it. But I was walking along this river and I was singing. And I was singing kind of quietly. And then I started singing a little bit more loudly. And then I realized that I was singing my light language, like this language that I sing that I really don't fully understand, you guys. I really don't, but makes me feel whole. It makes me feel complete. It makes me feel like everything that I want to communicate is being communicated. And I started singing this song in my light language really loudly. And I was almost like taken aback by how loudly I was singing this song by the river. And as I was like walking by the river, I looked up and there was a group of women. And I counted 1, 2, 3 women. And they were sitting on top of this big rock above the river. And for a moment, my voice became small again. And then I looked at them and I felt this warmth. And I opened up immediately into my voice and singing loudly again. And oddly enough, I kept walking and walking closer and closer to them. And I just sat down by them on this river and on this rock. And I looked over at them as I was singing my song. And I recognized in that moment that they were the goddess. And I smiled at them. And all of a sudden, all of them as one started joining in with me in my song. And one of them put her hand on my back and tickled my back. And as they were singing with me, and I felt like this warmth and this tickle on my back, I knew that I wasn't alone. And I knew that my prayers had been answered. And not just my prayers for myself, but my prayers before I went to bed that night, where these prayers for the world, prayers for my heart, because I had been going through a dark time in my mind. And I felt like this dream not only answered those prayers, that I wasn't alone and that I was truly supported by the goddess. And not only did they appreciate my song, but they joined in with it and tickled my back, but they also answered the prayers that I had in my dream. And when I woke from this whole night of like this journey in my dreams, I was definitely distraught because, again, like I said, it took me almost all day to get to the point of sitting with my guides and having the awakening and the realization of what they were trying to tell me through my dreams. But this is where I started thinking about, well, what is darkness? Like, we all carry this darkness, whether it's the stories we tell each other in our minds or tell ourselves, or the hurt we carry like a badge of honor, or the judgments we make about each other. But for me, I started thinking about all of the ways of darkness in my life. And those are big ones that I just spoke about. But even to thinking about how I love studying the shadow side of spirit. I love studying like the creepy paranormal stories. I love studying like why people can be evil when I just don't relate to that at all. I just want love and goodness. And I realized that a surgeon studies disease, not because they love disease, but because they love healing. And for me, I like to study my darkness, the darkness of humanity, the questions I have about the unseen realms, not because I study darkness because I want to like worship it or be like it, because love deserves to be intelligent. And understanding is different than wanting to be it. And sometimes we need to understand the darkest, most scary, most disgusting part of ourselves to understand the world around us and to be part of the transformation, to be part of the healing. And that's why I say don't run away from things that are scary or dark or questionable. Look at it, learn about it, understand it. It doesn't make you any less of a light bearer or of a light bringer. It makes you more potent with where you shine your light. So, I don't know. I wonder sometimes if, like me, humanity moves in cycles. Sometimes I become disconnected from myself or my truth or the earth, and I see the reflection in humanity is the same, where we be disconnected from spirit, or we lean too heavily into the comforts of conditioned hierarchy, where we don't even remember mystery anymore because we've been conditioned not to believe it, whether it's about ourselves or our minds and our hearts or the world. And I think about the profound beauty and the profound shadow that each one of us carry. And we're often taught that the spiritual path means that we're only looking towards the light. But if we never understand fear, if we never understand manipulation that we produce or receive, if we never understand the way suffering moves through people like it moves through our own mind, then our compassion truly remains incomplete. Being light without discernment can be naivete, and discernment without love is cynicism. And this spiritual path requires us to cultivate both, to look at the yin and to look at the yang, to look at the ugly, to look at the beautiful, to look at the evil, to look at the good in yourself, in the stories you tell, in the plays that you act out, in the ways that you think, in the ways that you choose to receive, just like we look at the world. That night, I thought my dreams were showing me a monster. And when I woke up, I realized I had the choice if I wanted to embody that monster, or if I wanted to embody the victim, or if I wanted to embody the hero, or if I wanted to embody the embodied wise woman. Every single day, we wake up and we get to choose which part of ourselves are going to lead. Do we want to be the frightened child, or the wounded victim, or the controlling force with no mercy? Or do we want to be that wise grandmother who knows that love isn't weakness, that love can stand in the doorway, that love can protect, that love can hold the line? And love doesn't pretend that darkness isn't real. It simply refuses to let darkness become the hero, the author, or the main character of the story. And I honestly don't think my dreams and my guides were asking me to be fearless. I think they were asking me to choose to trust myself. And I think that that's an invitation for all of us. And so, while I know it's super annoying to listen to someone else's dreams, this was a profound night for me. I woke up absolutely exhausted. And then it became this beautiful journey with my guides. And I really think it's for all of us. And so I wanted to share. I love you all. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Spirit Portal. If you like this episode, please help me grow, share it with your friends, and have a beautiful day.